Thank you. Well, to be quite honest, I wasn't aware of the fact that I'd be sharing the stage with Sitaram Yechuriji, but by instinct, you observe I'm wearing the right color. So at least we have a certain compatibility in that respect. It's also true that, our names have a rhyme. They rhyme together. So, but I think but I agree entirely with him on what he has said, and we can only postpone our concerns and actions to remove poverty to our detriment as a society. I am supposed to speak about Goal 7, which is ensuring environmental sustainability, but as you would doubtless understand, there is an enormous overlap between the challenge of removing poverty and lifting those who are below the poverty line, however you define it, and the issue of ensuring environmental sustainability. Now, I just want to raise a few issues by referring to the Government of India's Millennium Development Goals Country Report of 2005. On Goal 7, there were certain specific targets that were laid. For instance, for forest cover, it was said the 10th five-year plan, while emphasizing the need for balanced and sustainable economic development, along with sustainability of the environment for healthy living, has also set the target for increasing forest and tree cover to 25% by 2007, that was 3 years ago, and 33% by 2012, that's 2 years hence. We are far beyond any hopes of being able to achieve even the 2007 figure. So I think there is clearly something that is required to be changed fundamentally, by which we ensure that green cover in this country is expanded, and where it has been thinned, and that's over large areas of land, it is intensified to see that when we talk about forest land, it really has forests on it. So I think that's a major challenge, and I would submit that requires a complete upheaval of the system by which, let's say, services that relate to protection of the forests, enhancing forest cover, are put on the right track. I also want to mention the issue of land management. This very report says concerted efforts are being made through area development programs to regenerate and rejuvenate wasteland and degraded land. And we have things like the drought-prone areas program, we have the desert development program, we also have the integrated wasteland development program, and all of these are supposed to bring about an improvement in soil conditions. And soil degradation, we know, is a problem that is expanding across this country. The third point I'd like to make is with regard to the use of energy in households. We know very well that there are about 90% households in this country, in rural areas, who have no choice but to use biomass or very inferior sources of energy. It's also true there are almost 400 million people who have no access to electricity. And that's something which I think is a shameful fact, given the reality that we are living in the year 2010. Now, I want to tell you about a few important facts based on analysis that we have carried out. In the year 1995, when the country was preparing actively to celebrate 50 years of independence in 1997, I asked my colleagues at my institute to sit down and think what it is that we could do that is really different from the conventional analysis and the wisdom that's generated in terms of where we are, what we are going to do, and what we are going to achieve. So we assembled altogether about 35 persons within the institute, and we started collecting extensive data on what India had done to its natural resources in the first 50 years of independence. we compiled this very detailed report and released it before the then Prime Minister of India, Mr. I.K. Gujral, and a number of his cabinet colleagues, where we came up with some very startling and I would say totally valid figures. For instance, we found that as a result of environmental damage and degradation, the country was losing over 10% of its GDP. Now that's a huge amount. Now you would say, how did you estimate that? Well, look at the extent of air pollution, both indoor and outdoor, and the amount of morbidity and mortality that causes. If you were to look at the amount of sickness that is caused by air pollution, and we worked very closely with epidemiologists, we carried out detailed 24-hour monitoring of what happens in single-room homes in urban as well as rural areas, where there's an enormous amount of emissions of gases that come from this inferior biomass that is being burnt, and all of that is being lodged in the lungs of women and children in particular. And the extent of morbidity that leads to, and of course mortality, on which you can't place a rupee figure at all. This was one area where the country was losing enormously. Soil degradation was another area where we were suffering a massive loss. If you look at our rivers and bodies of water, most of them are dead, and therefore they certainly don't provide the kinds of benefits that were available 50 years ago. Fishermen can't fish. You can't even bathe in some of our holiest rivers. And if you look at the cost of foregone benefits as a result, then clearly all of this put together amounts to a substantial value. So I don't want to go into the details, but we came up with this figure of more than 10% of the GDP being lost as a result of environmental degradation. We have recently, just about 2 years ago, carried out a reappraisal of that exercise, and I must say the percentage is down. But it's down not because there has been an absolute reduction in environmental degradation, but essentially because our GDP has expanded. And therefore, we are certainly doing a little better in some areas, but in most areas, as far as the environment is concerned, we have many, many miles to go. I also want to emphasize the fact that one particular MDG which was missed, and I don't mind mentioning the fact, it was missed and deliberately neglected